This is Jimbo with Altcoin Buzz. Today is the beginning of a new segment of technical analysis, which will be presented by myself. Basically, we're going to focus mainly on Bitcoin and the majors, but perhaps in the future we may take some community requests as well and do some of the altcoins. Just to give you a little insight into myself, I'm an engineer and spent a lot of my career looking at charts and analysing the data that they present. So technical analysis is just a natural progression for me, and I've been playing my hand at trading for about 5 or 6 years now. Try and keep my indicators relatively simple and easy to follow. Perhaps maybe in the future I'll start to reintroduce some of the other indicators that I use, but for now we will stick to what we've got on the screen and just go through some easy things and try and point out some key things to look at on the Bitcoin charts, key things to watch. To start with, we will have a look here on the 1 week Bitcoin chart, because I always think it's important to take a long perspective first, to really get an idea of where price action's heading over the weeks and months to come. It's not as easy as that when it comes to Bitcoin, frankly, because one piece of fundamental news can send things skyrocketing. But what we can do is use our analytical tools to decipher which points we're be of massive interest and where's to look for really within the chart. So starting with the 1 week chart, I'm going to highlight a few things that I've got drawn on here. Start with this red line here. This is our long-term resistance that's formed between our all-time high back in the end of 2017, and this is the 2019 high back there in June. I've just put this line on because I think it represents something quite significant. I think that if we were to see a break of this line, I would imagine it would be followed with quite a lot of volume, as you can see, because there is a resistance line there formed. Now we have got 2 touches on the line, so we could put that in place, and this could be significant to some traders. They'll be watching this to decipher whether or not this bullish or bearish price action, and a break above that would probably be pretty bullish for a lot of people. Secondly, the second thing to point out will be this green line here. Now, this is the 200 weekly moving average, and as you can see, it formed as a really good support back in our lowest point down here at 3.5k. So basically what we've got here is a resistance line and a support line. I know it's a moving average, but we can still use it as a support because it worked so well here. And you can see that actually this range is getting tighter and tighter, and if price continues to climb in this period, we're going to see this range get tighter and tighter as the moving average starts to increase. So I think this is quite an interesting range to keep an eye on. I would imagine a break out of that upper resistance or a break below the support of the 200 weekly moving average would be followed through quite significantly. Next up, we've got our RSI, and an important thing to note here is this blue box, right? So this is the area between, let's have a look, just about 55 and about 60, okay? Right, and you can see that this box has acted as resistance, support in zones, resistance again. So I think it's quite important just to note that we have actually been rejected currently. Now remember that the RSI is a live indicator, so if we had a great big green candle, that the RSI line which is pointing down at the moment could very easily break up and through that. So it's important to keep an eye on the long term, and as you can see, we're currently facing stiff resistance on the RSI, so a bullish break of that would be excellent. To back that up with some extra work from the relative strength indexes, we've got the stochastic RSI here. Basically, what I'm looking for on here are these changes of momentum, changes of direction. You can see we had a good, we were up here in the very bullish zone for quite a while, and then we had this downturn, and we've had a bit of a sell-off, and you can see it repeated many occasions. High zone, momentum swung down low, and we had a breakdown. So at the moment we've got it pointing upwards to suggest that we might be seeing some upwards momentum. Again, it's a live indicator, so if this was to drop a big red candle on us, then possibly we'd see it swing the other way, and this would be pointing downwards again. So but worth keeping an eye on anyway. Next, we'll move on to the daily chart and get a bit of a closer insight into what's going on right now. One thing I want to point out to you guys just quickly before we go any further, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you any financial advice. This is just me checking the charts, giving you guys my insights. Do whatever you want with the information, but I'm not giving you financial advice, all right? So on the daily chart, there's a couple of things I want to highlight. So first of all, we've got this set of blue lines, which is forming a wedge range, and we've also got these 2 red lines, which I see as our major support and resistance lines. You can see here, resistance, resistance, support, 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 and then when we finally broke, we fell right down. And actually, it did act as quite a stiff resistance here again, but we'll get to that in a moment. And then again, you've got this red line underneath, and again, you can see resistance, support, support all in this area. We broke it with a big red daily candle, and then popped back up with a massive engulfing candle. So, so again, two areas to watch there with these red lines. All I'm trying to do for you here, guys, is highlight points of significance, right? And that's how we start to really analyze the charts, rather than guessing which direction it's going to go as much. We want to analyze the data that we've got here. So what's significant to me on the daily chart? Okay, so first of all, we broke out of this wedge range. And in the last 4 days, we've actually found support on the upper resistance of the wedge, which is usually a very good sign. This can often act as a springboard for further price increase. So worth keeping an eye on, but you always have to remember that there's the opposite alternative for that, which says that we could break back into this wedge and go back and test this next red support line. So, just because it looks great doesn't mean it is great. You have to wait for these confirmations, right? Also, we've got the 200 daily moving average, which I'm sure you're aware is considered a bullish or bearish market indicator. And we did break below this for some time here, between 25th of September and, of course, until the big candles we had last week, and the 26th of October. So we spent a month underneath it, but we've come back up nicely, and we're currently finding support above that. Again, a break back into this wedge would coincide quite clearly with a break of the 200 daily moving average. So really worth keeping an eye on that. And I'm going to zoom in now to the 4-hour chart just in one moment, and we'll have a little bit of a better look at what this range is doing and how it's playing out in there. But just points to note, we've got the RSI currently trending down with a lower high, which is often seen as a bearish indicator. However, it's much more clearly a bearish indicator if you get a higher price high with a lower RSI high. Okay, so this isn't the utmost of bearish indicators that we've seen this, but you are seeing that the strength has reduced, so it's worth keeping an eye on that. Also, we've got our stochastic RSI crossing down, suggesting that we may have some downside momentum to come. So it's going to be a serious, from the 1-day chart, my takeaway would be that there's a serious test of this 200 daily moving average coming up, and one way or another, we're going to break out of this red resistance line or break back down this blue support line. So let's zoom now into the 4-hour chart and take you to there. Okay, so on the 4-hour chart, you can see now on detail just how well this zone has been playing out. Sorry for that. You can just see how well this zone has been playing out. We've been pinballing between these support and resistance lines. Don't pay too much attention to the 200 moving average here. It's less important. But I'm just trying to show you how that range is playing out. Now, interesting points to note here on the 4-hour. Our stochastic RSI really looks like it wants to break up. Now, it can stay in this low zone for some time and trend downwards, but if that is to break up and have positive momentum, I would certainly at the very least expect a test of this upper resistance here towards a 9,700 zone. So keep an eye on that on the 4-hour chart. Again, like I said, I mean, listen, these lines, you can see how significant they've been for the support and resistance. Check them out. When you zoom out, you really can see just how important these lines are and how often the price is traded in these ranges. Historical data is not always amazing, but we're doing the best with the data that we've got. As I said, you analyze what's in front of you and make judgments. Look for points of potential breakout. Look for points of potential traction, and you can see here that we've got this area, this support. If you were looking for a long and beforehand, if that was the sort of thing that you potentially are looking to do, then you'd have drawn this line on before once we broke out, and you saw us bounce resistance there, hit the support. You'd have been putting your buys in on this line at 9,000, and you probably would have had them filled. But again, that's not financial advice. That's just me reading the charts and seeing what I might have done or a potential way that I could have played out. Full disclosure, I'm not trading this at all at the moment. I would personally be waiting for a breakout of either of these lines with some backed volume. So that would be interesting to see. That's backed volume as in volume backed rather than backed the company with volume. So anyway, yeah, there you go. That's what we've got going on the 4-hour chart. Keep an eye on this stochastic RSI, because if this turns up and starts pushing up quickly, we could very quickly see this resistance at 9,700-ish get tested. Finally, let's dive down into the 1-hour chart and just have a look at what we've got of important notes there. Now, there's a couple of things I want to highlight here. First of all, sorry keep popping up. Had to set up another account for this channel, so now I keep getting the adverts. As I don't want to pay for premium twice. Maybe I'll have to avoid that happening. Anyway, so on the 1 hour chart here, we've got this downtrending resistance line that we can clearly see formed. And again, here's our blue resistance support line that we were looking at from that wedge. And you can see how this range is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. This looks hours away from solving. I mean, it could be latest of tomorrow by 7 o'clock in the evening, but it doesn't often play out that way. They often break out quicker once people see the volume momentum. And again, we break this white line to the upside. Then we go on to test the 9,600, 9,700 zone of this red resistance line. And if we break down through the blue line, which was the top of our wedge, then we're going to see a test of this support line down here at around the 8,000 area. So yeah, just things I wanted to point out to you. Also, additionally, we have got this this green line that we've got overlined at the on the chart at the moment is the 50 exponential moving average. Now, not everyone holds credence to this, and not everyone thinks it's as important as others. But I think it's important to. I like to watch it because I think that it's quite a good indicator for showing us when we're going to see good moves, good strong moves. You can see often once we break this area or we bounce off of it, you tend to get quite a lot of price action, certainly to the upside. And quite often to the downside as well. You can see here we broke down, went up to retested it, broke down, and it, you can see this line playing out quite importantly. Now, what I want to highlight is we are actually seeing price. Let's get rid of that for a moment. You can actually see that price is currently trading underneath it, but we've had a lot of action around this 50 EMA. This is indicative of an indecisive move. It hasn't decided yet. What we're waiting to see, or what I'm waiting to see personally, is it get backed by volume either way, because when it does, it will move fast, just as it has done previously. It's funny, isn't it? Because I know that 42% 2 days was pretty extraordinary. I think it was the third highest percentage move over a 24-hour period in Bitcoin's history. So it is extraordinary, but we shouldn't be surprised anymore by these huge volume trades. I mean, it's a relatively immature market where money flows in and out very quickly. So when that happens, you can have these extraordinary moves. And of course, you can put any other sort of guess to why that might happen that you might like. It could be manipulation, could be anything. Who knows? It could just be the top boys who've got the biggest wallets making sure that they accumulate as much as possible. We're just guessing, so it's kind of a little bit like, what's the point? Until we get some fixed information, I'm not that interested to why it moves. I'm just more interested in trying to find out when and where it's going to move. So yeah, anyway, guys, this is going to start being a more regular thing. Please remember to smash the like button if you've enjoyed the video. If you want to see more of my content, that's going to help. Subscribe to Altcoin Buzz. Great group, provide great content. I also would advise you to go and check out altcoinbuzz.io, and that's a one-stop shop for virtually everything you need to keep up to date daily on cryptocurrency, whether it be technical analysis, whether it be news, blogs, research. There's some great work going on there with the guys. I urge you to go and check that out. Anyway, guys, that's everything for me today. I'll see you later on down the trend line.